I don't think too many of us would disagree that the cowboy crowd, whether it's from the ranch side or the rodeo side, are a stubborn bunch that like to do things their way. I'm Scott Hilgendorf with Cowboys of the Cross, and this is the short go. We're going to take a look from just one verse in one psalm, what it means to follow God's will. This is Psalm 119, verse 133. Keep steady my steps according to your promise, and let no iniquity get dominion over me. So keep steady my steps according to your promise, and let no iniquity get dominion over me. And what the psalmist is saying here throughout the whole psalm, actually, is an encouragement for people to live out God's word. He's almost celebrating what it means to be able to follow God's rules. Now, we, through the New Testament and understanding of what it means to have salvation through Jesus Christ, we understand that the Old Testament law that the psalmist is referring to isn't something that is required of us to be saved. God's grace allows us to mess it all up, but still have a perfect eternity in heaven when we truly have repented of our sin, asked to be forgiven because of our belief in Jesus Christ, that he died on the cross to take the punishment that was meant for our sin, that he took our place on that cross and suffered painfully, horribly for us, because God is not going to tolerate sin. God is going to punish it. So Jesus took that punishment meant for us so that we could be saved again by truly repenting of our sin, recognizing that that sin does separate us from God, and asking to be forgiven. So all of these rules then, they aren't something that we have to do to be right with God. It's Jesus Christ that made it so that we could be right with him. But just like the psalmist is pouring his heart out here, wanting us and encouraging us to follow God's word, that is where we should find ourselves in our hearts when our salvation is real, is that we should have a desire to follow God's word. So we have not only now the Old Testament, but we have the New Testament, where Jesus gives a whole lot more teaching about what it looks like to be like him. And that's what happens when we're saved, is we start a process called sanctification, meaning we start to become more and more like Jesus Christ. And the only way we can do that then is by knowing what's in God's word and following it. So instead of choosing to do things our way, and sometimes our way can seem a lot easier, but what the psalmist is encouraging is for us to do things God's way and to have a joyful heart in doing that. That if God now, with this knowledge that we have that the psalmist didn't at that time, the knowledge of what Jesus did for us, how much more then if the psalmist is pouring out his heart through all of the verses throughout the psalm about how important it is and how joyful he is in following God's word. When we know what we've been saved from, the punishment that was meant for us and what we've been saved from, how can we not want to joyfully follow God's word? So I just want to encourage you guys then, cowboysofthecross.com, every other Thursday, we put new teaching out there. We use social media all the time, these short go videos. These are just ways to help you learn more about what's in God's word so that we can start to live out more of what the teaching is. Josh, our ranch hand, he is just finishing up a series, or just finished a series on the website, all videos that just look at some aspects of what it means to be doers of the word, what it means to live God's word. And then through this, just an encouragement not to see it as something cumbersome and difficult, but as a way for God to keep our path steady towards him, towards becoming more like Jesus Christ, steady towards our path home, our eternity in heaven. Love you guys. We'll see you the next time.